website by our webmaster and worthy assistant, Margot Irvin. We've been doing this for over a year now, and while I think we're getting better each week, we're still a work in progress. So bear with us if we have rough spots or delays, voices get broken up, or the picture freezes. To improve the quality of sound, our technician, Doug Stewart, has muted everyone. Thank you, Doug. We still need more Zoom gurus. So if any of you are willing to learn to help with the technical aspects of our virtual services, please contact Sarah Suriani. Continue, please, to keep your microphones muted during the service. During joys and sorrows, some of you will be invited to unmute your microphone to share. And all of you will be able to unmute if you choose to stay after the service to socialize during our virtual coffee quarter hour. Now, Fred will lead us in our call to worship.
May the light of this chalice give light and warmth to our community when we are joyful and when we're in despair. And may we feel the warmth spread from our circle to wider and wider circles until we all become one circle of life. Okay. Please join me with your microphones muted to recite our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and spirit and service its call. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now sit back and enjoy our opening song, Sitting Here in Limbo, by Playing for Change.
Sitting here in limbo, and I know it won't be long. Sitting here in limbo, like a bird without a song. They keep putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on. Sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to roll. Sitting here in limbo, sometimes I search my soul. They're putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on. And I can't say where life will lead me, but I know where I've been. I don't know what life will show me, but I know what I have seen. I've tried my hand at love and friendship, but now all of that is gone. And this little boy keeps moving on. Sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to roll. Oh, sitting here in limbo, time to search my soul. They keep putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on. And I can't say where life will lead me. I know where I've been. Don't know what life will show me. I know what I see. Tried my hand at love and friendship, but now all of that is gone. This little boy is moving on. Oh, sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to roll. Sitting here in limbo, sometimes I search my soul. They keep putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on. Yeah, they keep on putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on. The faith. They're putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on.
Now it's time for a time for all ages. And it's a reminder today that it's up to us. It's up to all of us to be the change that we want to see in the world.
They're right. You are a fat loser.
Everything okay, Katie?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Are you sure, sweetie?
Like, is everything okay at school?
I said I'm fine. Can you just leave me alone?
I don't appreciate you picking on my friend. Kate is amazing and unique, just like every other person in the school. And if you have a problem with any of us, well, you should just keep it to yourself. Do you have any idea how much that could hurt someone? And guys, we are just as bad if we just sit here and do nothing. Why do you have to be so mean?
There's a girl I see that she's hurting. I'm sure she's hiding scars. Do they only know me when they need me? It pulls her shoulders down. There's a boy who carries a great weight. He is often pushed to the
The latest research shows that 1 in 3 children are directly involved in bullying, as the perpetrator or the victim, or sometimes even both, which means we've all seen it.
As a young person, by standing up to a bully and telling them that it's not okay, you have a 50% greater chance of stopping schoolyard bullying than a teacher does.
If you're a caregiver or a parent and you think that your child is being bullied, your participation in this is so important.
So visit www.bethechangenz.org so you can hashtag upstand and be the hero. And remember, kindness begins with you.
Thanks, Doug. I think that's perfect. Together, we are weaving a tapestry of love we call community. To do this, we take time each Sunday to share some of the important joys and sorrows in our personal lives, transferring a glass stone from one bowl into another, acknowledging that this community joins you to celebrate your personal joys and offers you comfort for your personal sorrows. If you'd like to share, please use the chat button to send your name and I'll call on you. To do this, put your cursor at the bottom of your screen, click on that and type in your name. Also, you might want to share your joy or sorrow by writing it in the chat box. Please be brief. Know that all of you will be given an opportunity to share more during our virtual coffee hour after the service. So first, I'd like to know if anyone has any a birthday or anniversary that they're willing to admit to. I'll do this. Anybody? Bill, you're not going to admit? You're not going to admit to anything. Okay. Herbie, you're 20. We know that. Anybody else? Oh, cute. Gene Decker celebrated his 91st birthday on Thursday. Gene, woohoo. We'll pretend this is 91. This into there. Yay, Diane LaPierre, thank you. Francie and Tim share a birthday on Thursday, this coming Thursday. Kathy Hartman tells us. Woohoo, okay, here we go. Tig Young's dad celebrated his 90th on March 20th. More, I got plenty here. How are we looking? Oh, Tig, let's see. I'm looking. So Tig Young, for reasons I won't go into, I struggle with depression every spring. Yeah, more than I do the rest of the year. Namakwa member Donna Brown is a joy. Yes, she's so often available to listen to me and she checks in with me if I'm neglectful of my responses. I can't begin to express how much it means to me and how thankful I am for her. She's a beacon of light and hope for me. Isn't that wonderful? That's what we are for each other. That's going to be my point here. We are here for each other. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so other joys, concerns. Okay, all right, so here are my bowls. I see no more joys and concerns, so I'll put a few more, I'll put some more of these into the other bowl. First off, for the joys and concerns of the world around us, which I forgot to get a couple of extra candles for. Let's pretend there's 2 more candles back there, one for the joys and one for the concerns of the world outside our walls. And then these are for those things that we hold in our hearts that are a little too tender to talk about yet. Got one of those. I'll tell you another time when I'm not in the middle of it. Okay. And so rather than to celebrate all this, we will now listen to Spirit of Life rather than Comfort Me. Spirit of Life will comfort us.
Hello. Hi, I'm Fred Schrekinger, and I'll be doing a reflection today. And before I start, I should warn you, I lose my internet sometimes, but it's only been 2 or 3 minutes. So if I lose it, just hang in there. I'll be right back. But in any case, the name of my reflection today is Becoming a Born Again Unitarian Universalist. To become born again Unitarian, a person needs to be born Unitarian the first time. I was actually born a Universalist and was dedicated as an infant 71 years ago. People treat me like I'm some sort of museum piece, but there are actually several of us floating around here somewhere. I was told that I was dedicated with a thornless white rose to symbolize purity and innocence. My parents were thrilled to discover the Universalist Church in 1945 and were enthusiastic and active Unitarian Universalist members until they died respectively in 1989 and 1990. My father was actually a cheerleader for the church. If there was a Unitarian, it would be, if there was a Mr. Unitarian, it would be him. Whenever there was a prominent person who happened to be a Unitarian, he always would let us know. The first one that I remember was Adlai Stevenson. Being a Unitarian Universalist in the 1950s and 60s was a very active time with all of the social justice movements. I was active in UU for 25 years until I left Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, in 1974. I went all the way from as a child being in RE, religious education. I was also in LRY, which is an acronym for Liberal Religious Youth. The highlight of LRY was going to summer camp to Estes Park, Colorado every year. It was the early 60s and the protest era, and Peter, Paul, and Mary, Pete Seeger, and the civil rights protest songs were kind of what we sang up there. I signed the Unitarian Universalist membership book on my 16th birthday. When I was 21, I was moved right to the head of the line. I was nominated to the church board and elected and made secretary of the board, all on my parents' coattails. Whoops. For 45 years until 2 years ago, I was not for lack of desire, but I was not in a Unitarian church. I could not find a church that fit. There are more Unitarian Universalists who are without a church than there are members, and there's several reasons for this. The first is finding a church in the first place. There aren't always Unitarian churches available. Some places where there are no church, there's none available. If there is a church and you don't like it, then you've pretty much eliminated your chances of finding anything reasonable in that area. So there's no reasonable alternatives. Timing is another factor. I know people who, when they have children, join the Unitarian Universalist Church specifically to raise their children UU. Timing is at the other end of the life cycle is also a factor. My wife and I have no kids, and our family trees have very, very few branches. So Unitarian Universalist is among the organizations that I've chosen to be part of and make it part of our network. My wife's not a churchgoer. She's a strong, stable introvert, but she supports my being on it. Okay. There are other organizations such as Kiwanis, Forum Club, and several volunteer jobs. I surprised myself to become a member of Facebook a few years ago. I didn't think I'd ever do that, but there's some things I like about it. And one of the things is that there are some Unitarian Universalists on it as well. So they like my posts. The most important factor in finding a church is that it fits. I moved to Fort Collins in 2004 and quickly eliminated the UU church in Fort Collins, although I do attend periodically. At least 2 times when I was at Foothills, they had a brass quintet. I don't know if it was the house band or what, but I'll take Tim Bob any day. I knew that there was a fellowship in Loveland, but the concept of a fellowship didn't really interest me. I had no idea that there was also a church down here. I guess there wasn't until about 7 years ago. I found out about Namakwa from a brief conversation with a friend. He gave it a very high recommendation. Several factors intrigued me. One of them was that the minister was also a former lawyer. I wrote Reverend Laurel a letter explaining my potential interest. A few months later, it was months, I went to the Makwa and was blown away when she recognized my name and remembered that I'd written her a letter. I started getting the newsletter and came 2 times to her office to talk to her individually. I was very impressed by how she said she loved her congregation. She said it many times. When I went to the Makwa church services, I felt that I was at an event, not just a sermon. It had quite a personality. Holding hands at the end of the service kind of creeped me out at first. There are some Unitarian Universalists that are somewhat more solemn than the Makwa. I knew that when I joined the Makwa, it would involve a commitment both of time and money. After being on the fence for quite a while, I noticed the newsletter said that they were welcoming new members that week. I called right away and asked if it was too late to come down, and they said, no, come on down. And I became a Makwa Unitarian, and here I am, born again, happy to be here.
Thanks for that, Fred. Now we know what it is to be a born-again UU. So we will now virtually receive our offering. One of the ways that Namakwa walks our talk is to give half of our collection plate away to support our local community. And this quarter, we're donating half of our collection plate to the Loveland Youth Gardeners. So to donate, click on the chat icon, and Doug will display a link that invites you to give. Click on that link to give an electronic donation, either through your bank account or credit card. You can choose to designate your donation as a pledge or for the collection plate or for our building fund. Alternatively, you can always mail in your donation to the church or go to our website, namakwau.org, to donate electronically. We'll play some music now to give you a minute to donate. Doug?
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for and needing, which finds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice, strive to make us free.
So to bless our offering, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as we work to create beloved community. And now, becoming what? According to Wikipedia, Ubuntu is a Nguni Bantu African term meaning humanity. It's spelled U-B-U-N-T-U. It's sometimes translated as I am because we are, or humanity towards others, but is often used in a more philosophical sense to mean the belief in a universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity. My eldest granddaughter, her name is Yolanda, spelled U-L-O-N-D-A. We call her Lonnie. She's a medical assistant. And in the clinic where she works, Ubuntu is their code word for all hands on deck, or I need everyone. Whenever there's a crisis, someone will call out Ubuntu, and everyone drops what they're doing and races to help out. Last Christmas, her boss gave everyone bracelets engraved with the word Ubuntu. When she showed it to her mom, Sarah said, "That's cute, but they spelled your name wrong." Sounds like something my mom would say. She was funny too. Well, in all seriousness, and I can say that because I'm a linguist, so I know the rules, I was struck by the obvious connection between Ubuntu and Unitarian Universalists' seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Doug Stewart, our faithful Zoom master today, does many things in this congregation, and one of them is presenting a workshop on transitions, which I highly recommend. After experiencing about a half dozen of them since I became a UU, I finally took it and discovered that one of the biggest takeaways is that all beginnings start with an ending. Aha! Before a person can become something, they must stop being something else. We hesitate to let go of something because we don't always know what'll come next or what we will become. In that space between the end of one thing and the beginning of another, the author of the workshop calls this the neutral zone. We feel as if we've let go of a trapeze swing and we're hanging in midair waiting for the next swing to come within reach. It's a scary place to be, and one that has been known for discouraging people from letting go of something that isn't serving them well. Sometimes it's nerve-wracking, like being between jobs or between high school and college. Moving to a different state or city can be anxiety-inducing. Sometimes it's literally a matter of life and death. A perfect example of this is a victim of domestic violence. The perpetrator keeps them so off balance that they come to believe that no matter how bad the situation is, it's no better anywhere else, and it could be worse. So they stay. Because number one, they love this person and they simply cannot imagine a better life. Their abuser cuts them off from any support system they may have had, leaving them feeling alone and unsupported. It's like they're in the middle of their own little personal cult. Even when they wake up to the fact that they're in a toxic relationship, they fear attempting to leave because it could make things worse, and often does. But before they can become self-actualized, they have to stop being a victim, and they can't do it alone. This is where we come in, a beloved community. And really, isn't that what we're becoming? We're aware of our interdependence and assured that we don't have to do it alone. We are a support system for one another. Donna Brown is a perfect example of this. Laurel often says that we have something of great value to offer this community. In my opinion, this is really the most valuable. Many years ago, my best friend was being battered by her husband. She was afraid to leave, afraid that she'd never find another man who would want her and her 2 children. I tried to convince her to leave him before it was too late. One night, she called me to come get her. He was brandishing a knife and threatening her with it. I drove to her house and brought her home with me. Michael and I were dating at the time, and I asked him to spend the night with us. He stayed sentry in the living room while Pamela and I slept in my bed. The next day, she went back. Now, let me say here that at that time, we didn't know what else to do. But her husband had been to my house. He knew where we were, and I knew that I was putting myself at risk to save her. Thank goodness she survived, eventually divorced, and remarried a very gentle man. Now, instead of taking that sort of action and putting yourself in danger, let me suggest this. If at all possible, volunteer to work with Alternatives to Violence and become a victim's advocate. They will train you. I did this when I first moved to Loveland. You can contact the pastoral care team and ask to join them. You can listen. You can believe them. You can comfort. You can help them call ATV, Alternatives to Violence. You can accompany them to the police department or hospital. You can let them know they don't have to do this alone. If you don't feel comfortable being hands-on, you can donate to Alternatives to Violence or SAVA, S-A-V-A, in Fort Collins and support them that way. Now, the great majority of domestic violence victims identify as female, but it's not unheard of for a victim to identify as male. One of my brothers was physically abused by his wife and never said anything about it to anyone until they were divorced. Men have an especially hard time admitting to being victimized. People will deny that they're in danger of becoming a victim, but it often creeps up like the heat in a lobster pot, so gradual that they don't notice until it's too late. We might be able to help potential victims by sharing with them the warning signs. First, there will be jealousy or possessiveness. This used to be perceived as flattering. It indicated that he really loves you. Then comes the controlling behavior, wanting to know where you are and with whom anytime you're not with him. This morphs into telling you where you can go and with whom. Then there's verbal abuse, telling you you're stupid, wrong, or any number of demeaning terms, gaslighting you. Next might come threats to you, your family, or friends. And then physical violence can be the next step. After physical violence, he will apologize profusely, perhaps giving you gifts or in some other way trying to make up for his behavior and swearing that he'll never do it again. He's lying. It never gets better. I assure you, I am intimately familiar with domestic violence, and I know these things to be true. Even though I believe that in almost every case, no person is all good or all bad, the victim has to understand that the negative side of their beloved's personality heavily outweighs the positive side, and they are at risk. Now, getting back to becoming, I would venture to say that very few individuals feel as if they've become the ideal version of themselves. We're all work in progress. Christians say God isn't done with me yet. You say, I'm not done yet. Here at Namakwa, we say, wabi-sabi, or perfect imperfection, to indicate that things don't always work the way we want them to. But it's okay. We're trying to become the best we can be. But we know there's no such thing as perfection. Remember, practice makes progress, not perfect. Now, becoming actually describes Unitarian Universalists perfectly. We are a people of questions, not answers. We are a people of truth-seeking, not adopting prepackaged convictions. We are a people of principles and covenant, not creeds. I've always been a UU, but I really didn't know it. Along my spiritual journey, I attended a Pentecostal church because my grandfather was a Pentecostal preacher. And it only took me about a minute to realize that wasn't going to work. Not for me. Baptist, because an elementary school I attended offered released time religious education. They had me at released time, and we got grape juice and crackers. Then the AME Zion, because they have the best music and hats. That's important. Presbyterian, because it was close to where we lived at the time. Somewhere in between there, I adopted Catholicism, initially because I put my daughters in the Catholic school. Then Methodism, because I was invited to sing there, before finding my home and my tribe at Namakwa, because it just made sense. Now, most of us, with the exception of Barbara Fleming and Fred that I know of, have similar stories of circuitous paths to UUism, and many of us were at least a little pleasantly surprised at what we had become. I can only speak for myself, but this may resonate with some of you. Whether it's in my personal relationships, work history, spiritual path, or global responsibilities, I find myself being constantly reinvented. And with each new circumstance, I'm changing. I'm becoming something new. With COVID, I became unemployed and at the same time, mostly sequestered at home. I became a job seeker, a penny pincher, an internet shopper, a podcast binger, and a Zoom attendee. It's that last change that's helped me survive mentally, I think. I'm probably more connected to members of this congregation now because I have all the time in the world to attend workshops and activities like the Soul to Soul group led by Janin Wright, the meditation group led by Susan Mooney and Janin, the Social Sisterhood with Alice Kane and Nancy Amsler, and of course the Sunday services and coffee quarter hour. And through it all, I'm comforted by knowing that soon we'll be together again physically. And in the meantime, knowing that we have each other's backs. We don't have to do it alone. And I'm part of that universal bond of Yolanda, Ubuntu. May it be so.
Before I extinguish the chalice, I would just like to make a comment. For one thing, my internet went out, so stay with me. But the other is being a Unitarian and don't know it is not unusual. My father, whenever he met anybody who had a reasonable view of religion, he said, that guy's a Unitarian and he doesn't even know it. So that's the way I grew up. Anyway, this chalice is extinguished, but its light gives it, but his light is in mind. The light lives on its own and in the hearts and souls of each of us. Let us carry the flame with us and share it with those we know and those we love, and especially with those we have yet to meet.
Thank you, Fred. Now, our benediction, no matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day, act so you may be a little more whole. Inspired by Rebecca Parker. Now, shortly after the service ends, you'll receive an invitation on your screen to a breakout session. We'll have 2 breakout sessions, so don't take off after the first. You get a chance to mingle with other folks. So these are wonderful. Each time you'll get to visit with folks for about 8 minutes. So this will be great. Meanwhile, here's our closing song, Stand By Me, again by Playing for Change.
This song says, no matter who you are, no matter where you go in your life, at some point you're going to need somebody to stand by you.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my darling, stand by me. No matter who you are, no matter where you go in life, you gonna need somebody to stand by you. No matter how much money you got, all the friends you got, you gonna need somebody to stand by you. When the night has come and the land is dark and that moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't need one here just as long as your people come and stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand, stand by. Come on, stand by me. Yeah. When that sky that we look upon, when she tumble and fall on the mountains, they should tumble into the sea. I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, baby, baby. So darling, darling, stand. Oh, stand. Oh, stand. Oh, stand by me. Come on, stand by me. Stand. Oh, won't you stand? Oh, stand. Stand by me. Come on, stand by me. When the night has come and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. Not as long as you, yeah, stand by me. Hey, thank you, thank you.
Love those videos. Now for announcements, during this next week, Worship Associates Mim Neal and Susan Moody will present Awakening to Our Earth's Need. That's going to be a fabulous service, of course. They're great. There are a bunch of other announcements. I'll give you a couple of them. Kent Robertson is in Brookdale Assistant Living in Fort Collins and would love to have visitors. So see the email blast for details on that. There are a whole bunch of them there, actually. There are 2 social justice issues featured in the email blast we'd like you to look at. A parent support and discussion group on Wednesday evenings from 6:30 to 7:30. Virtual board games. Contact Chad Escalier or Margot Irvin. The meditation group meets on Thursdays from 10 to 11:15. The Social Sisterhood on Thursdays from noon to 1. There's just all kinds of things going on. You wouldn't believe all the stuff that's still going on, even though we're not able to physically hug each other. So as I was saying, as I found, I encourage you to join some of these groups, pop in on some of this stuff. It'll really keep you connected to the congregation. It's a big help, and especially in these times of separation here. So, and if you're not getting that email blast that gives you all those details, please let me know. Me or Doug or just about anybody Alice can help you out with that. We can make sure that you get that email blast. So now it's time for our virtual coffee hour. So as I said, Doug will break us up into groups and hang around and join 2 groups and get your talk on. Okay, Doug.